Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast. In this episode, Chris Kilby speaks to Jon Brice, Senior Vice President of Business Development at Asymchem. Asymchem is a large CDMO with 8 manufacturing facilities across China. In this interview, Jon explains how their flagship green chemistry technologies make them a sustainable partner for small molecule and peptide APIs.
My name is Jon Brice. I'm Senior Vice President of Business Development with Asymchem. Asymchem is a large CMO, about 10,000 people, $800 million in revenue. I've worked here 15 years after 10 years in process chemistry for a few big pharma companies. I have a PhD in organic chemistry from University of Illinois, and I supervise a group of about 30 people, $250 million in revenue, and we do about half to 60% of Asymchem's portfolio of work.
Okay. When you look at Asymchem as a business, what would you say makes you and the business and what you do unique for your customers?
So that's a good question. There are many fine CDMOs throughout the world that can take a piece of technology or a technical package and execute it. That in and of itself is not differentiating. What makes Asymchem different from other CDMOs is the fact that for about the last 10 years, we've made a significant investment in basic research around, that we can group under the broad rubric of manufacturing technology. So our 2 flagship technologies are flow chemistry, where we are arguably the world leader in pharmaceutically relevant flow chemistry, and biocatalysis. So, we discover, evolve, manufacture, and use enzymes. Now, we do have some smaller technologies, such as a program in non-heavy metal catalysis. So the idea that you can run metal catalyzed reactions using more accessible metals like nickel and iron, as opposed to platinum or palladium. And some of our technologies, in fact, spawn other technologies when we kind of marry 2 capabilities. So for instance, in the course of our flow development work and our biocatalysis work, we began to experiment with the mobilization of enzymes onto solid supports. And a few years later, we now have a fairly robust program in flow biocatalysis. And the advantages of that would be a whole podcast unto itself. But really, if you look at the suite of technology that Asymchem has developed and routinely operates, it's a toolbox that you really can't find in any other CDMO.
When you then look forward to the largest events in pharma, Barcelona next week, etc., what are the products and services that you're most excited about exhibiting and showcasing to the market? How do you make sure that those really core, unique competencies that you have in your business, how do you convey those to the market?
Asymchem is very active in industry events, certainly trade shows. So you can look at the CPHIs and the DCATs and other big shows all around the globe. In addition, because of our core position in basic research, we're very active in the publication space as well. So if you look at some of the top journals such as Science or Nature, OPRD, things that process chemists really turn to for information, Asymchem has an extremely strong presence. And that certainly is in and of itself a marketing channel. And, as we go to these shows, we do have more than enough work to give a fairly full series of scientific talks and presentations. And we find that that's actually an excellent way to market the company. And in that case, what we're really doing is we are marketing to technical people. Of course, you can talk to someone in supply chain or an external partner manufacturing group, and that is one avenue. And, that's a standard sort of distribution of information and marketing our technology and points of differentiation. But what we found is that by reaching out directly to the scientists, and generally speaking, we're talking about, usually process chemists, but sometimes medicinal chemists, what we find is that educating them on our technology and its advantages and the full breadth of our capability can get them excited. And then they in turn go back and internally advocate for Asymchem. And a chemist at your company speaking well of Asymchem is far more powerful than me showing up with a colored deck of PowerPoint slides and talking up the company. And when we're at trade shows, we bring scientific people because we want to engage in scientific discussions. I mean, my philosophy as the head of business development is bring your chemists and let our chemists convince your chemists that we can deliver value and solve problems that other companies can't solve. And I think more often than not, we're successful in that mission, which turns into a project and then allows us to demonstrate, the very capabilities and the skills that we advocate for so vigorously in the marketing space.
Stepping back a little bit from the show and maybe also to a degree from your business as well, this industry is always evolving and changing very quickly, never more so than the last few years. If you look forward to 2024 and maybe even beyond, what would you pinpoint, Jon, as the one major trend that our listeners should be aware of? And why would you pick that one?
So hands down, my group and myself specifically interacts with 18 of the top 20 market cap pharma companies in the world. I mean, they're all my clients. The one topic that comes up every meeting, and it's really begun to accelerate over the last 9 to 12 months, is sustainability. And I should clarify that by saying a legitimate interest in real sustainability. So, and we'll just define sustainability as being, a mix of green technologies, converting processes to be more green, reducing carbon footprint, and general overall manufacturing technology modifications that reduce waste in all its forms. So, carbon footprint is part of it. Part of it is toxic metals. Anything that makes a more environmentally friendly, less polluting process is what we will use as a working definition of sustainability. And of course, this has been bandied about, for 5 of my 15 years at Asymchem. And I think 5 years ago, it was more a nice to have and maybe even aspirational. It was mentioned because the term was floating around the industry, but you didn't see companies really begin to track this and put metrics around it. Well, we've now begun to see this. So we're being asked as a big CDMO, and we do a lot of commercial work. I mean, my group must run 500, 600 projects a year, 50 assets commercially for Western markets. We're now being asked to prove to our clients that we are making progress on a sustainability front. And each company has their own scorecard. But what overarches that is that it's all the companies have this interest at the same time. And we see this, I've seen this for years in the industry, that something will be whispered and then all of a sudden everyone's shouting it. Now sustainability is a very favorable topic for Asymchem because it plays perfectly into really our flagship technology. So if we go back, it's certainly biocatalysis, the idea that you're getting rid of metal and organic solvent and performing reactions catalyzed by enzymes that don't use any metal and usually a lot less organic solvent. Those tend to be aqueous systems or aqueous with small molecular weight alcohols that are much less toxic than the hexanes and the toluenes of the world. So certainly biocatalysis allows us to stand up and show a legitimate avenue of progress in making processes greener. And our expertise with enzymes is to the point where probably almost every project we do at Asymchem, or I should say maybe 1 and 2, to be honest, uses a biocatalytic step with an Asymchem enzyme. And we could reasonably the same thing about flow, which is actually much more prevalent in our portfolio of technologies that we use for just overall reactions because we so widely apply it. But flow processes are inherently less polluting.
Yeah.
You get much better efficiencies. You can recirculate reactive streams on a smaller amount of solvent until the reaction runs to completion. But it just inherently uses less polluting materials. And so, and certainly other things like immobilization and how we catalyze reactions with safer metals really all plays into sustainability. So we're really glad the industry has gone that way. We see it as being a good thing. And we feel that we are perfectly positioned strategically to deliver value against those types of sustainability goals.
That's tremendous to hear, Jon. Really great that Asymchem are taking such a leading role in that. You mentioned that that's been a theme for, at least 5 of your 15 years. Why now?
Yeah, it's been, it's been a number of years, and you see this in other areas where people speak about it and then something changes. And all of a sudden everyone begins to speak about it, as I said, not aspirationally, but realistically. And I think it's a couple of things. I think, generally speaking, people want more robust supply chains. COVID certainly, I think, has taught us and many other industries that, what you did yesterday in terms of supply chain security is not necessarily what you're going to be doing tomorrow. We see less polluting processes as being inherently de-risked. They run less chance of, accidents. There's less flammable material around. As a very practical point, you stand a much reduced risk of running afoul of whatever environmental agency you're dealing with. The less pollution you're generating, the easier it is to manage. So all the problems of waste management, waste pre-treatment, disposal of toxic materials, as you make your process greener, you inherently reduce the risk burden in all of those different risk buckets. And we spend a lot of time thinking about risk at Asymchem, and frankly, global warming. And now it's to the point where we begin to see, if you just look at, global climate patterns and adverse events, more hurricanes, wetter some areas, drier in other areas, we see the real manifestation of global warming. And that's when people wake up and say, no, it's time to really take this seriously and concretely action on these sustainability philosophies. And last year we won the ACS award for green chemistry because one of our clients had a process, that we converted to flow photochemistry, but it was their insistence. Their driving criteria for vendor selection was, we want someone to do this in a sustainable manner, because the way it was, the technology that was being used otherwise was inefficient and very waste producing.
Thanks, Jon. That's great to hear. And that's a really good positive point to leave today's interview on. So thanks again for your time today, Jon.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
And if you're going to CPHI Barcelona, you can meet with the Asymchem team on stand 3N10 or visit their website asymchem.com. Finally, we're excited to tell you about PartnerMatch, which is a brand new service from us at PharmaSource. PartnerMatch is a new online meeting platform designed to be the most targeted, efficient and sustainable way to connect with pre-approved partners in key areas such as APIs, packaging, supply chain, contract manufacturing and CROs. We believe that by creating better, faster matches, PartnerMatch can directly contribute to accelerating the rollout of groundbreaking therapies. Get involved by heading to pharmasource.global/partnermatch. Thank you for listening.